Hey everybody, I'm back again. And this video is what is the ego. Now, many people treat the ego as the enemy, like they say, and they think the ego is the flesh. Ego is not flesh. One thing I like to do is search the history of words, and I do have my notes over here you see me looking over, because I like to research the history of the words, which is also why I wanted to start Word Wednesday. And I think the ego is the best way to kind of start Word Wednesday, and I'll have another word after this, since this video really is more so all about what the ego truly is. In order to understand what the word ego truly is, then we have to take the word ego back to its true root meaning. Yes, words do change and evolve and have current definitions of the word, but the underlying root, the word that gave birth to it, that energy is still there. Whether the energy gets distorted, manipulated, or whatever, constricted, the original energy of that word is still there, so the true meaning is still there. And when the true meaning is still there, the true meaning is not allowed to flow free. That's where we get problems today. That's where we get problems at, and that's why today we have a lot of problems where people see the ego as the enemy. You cannot see any part of yourself as the enemy. There's no such thing as an enemy. You don't have an enemy. Even if you go by the Bible where you say the devil is your enemy, the devil's actually not your enemy. If you read the book of Job, the devil can't touch you if you believe in the devil concept. The book of Job is the reason why I don't believe in the devil concept, period. But if you read the book of Job, and it doesn't say, I don't believe this is the devil, it's Satan. Satan asks for permission from God or from source, because God actually means something else, from source to touch Job. And in the end, it elevated Job's faith, and it shows where Job fell short at and what needs to be worked on. That's not an enemy to you. That's a help to you. That's not a hindrance. That's a help for you to spiritually elevate. So therefore, you have no enemy. There's no such thing as an enemy. So with that being said, your ego is not your enemy. So let's get into the history of the word ego. Ego is a metaphysical term that started somewhere in the late 16th century, early 17th century. Late 17th century, early 1800th century. Yeah. And ego actually comes from the Latin letter I. The Latin letter I. And when you take the Latin letter I all the way back through Old English, through German, through Nordic, you go all the way back to the Sanskrit. It comes from the word Aim, A-H-A-M. Yeah, A-H-A-M. And actually, that word never, when you start studying Sanskrit, that word never actually stands alone. And there's a phrase that's supposed to go with it, which is Aim Brahmasmi. I'm not probably saying it wrong, but I'll spell it. It's A-H-A-M, which is the I. And then it's B-R-A-H-M-A-S-M-I, which basically means I am all of us. So what they did was took one word from a phrase and created a whole other thing from just one word, from something that's supposed to be a concept, understanding, a spiritual knowing. And this is I am all of us, which means even though I, in this manifested realm, is in this shell of a body, I understand that my true self is spirit. My spirit is connected to all spirits. All spirits are connected to our higher spirits. All higher spirits are connected to higher energies. All higher energies are connected to the source of all. Therefore, we are all connected to the source of all. Therefore, I am us, you are me, I am you, we are all one. That is the concept. So when you understand that concept of ego, do you understand that ego has nothing to do with the flesh? Ego has to do with spirit. Ego is a part of your spirit. Ego is a part of your spirit that came here to experience. The spirit experiences through what ego feels, what ego sees, what ego touches, not necessarily how ego interprets, because our logic can conflict with the true, with what ego truly is experiencing, and that's what happens a lot today. Your logic is not necessarily your enemy, but when you allow someone else to train your logic, and especially if you live in America, we are trained logically as children. We're given toys to separate, we're given how to add, how to separate, how to star here, circle there, how to compare and contrast. That's all logical training. We are taught how to logically from birth as children, especially here in the Americas. And then once they start teaching that, then they start indoctrinating beliefs and structure, and all that has to deal with logic. But that also has to deal with somebody else's or societal agreement that you didn't really agree to, logic. And the reason I'm saying you didn't agree to, because if you're reincarnated in the past since the 1960s, you didn't come here to agree to the social structure. You came here to slowly be a part of the bigger picture to change what society's understanding of spirit is. That's part of the soul agreements, for 1950s, 60s, and why you see so many different changes, so many different things going on. All of us came here collectively to do a part in changing that. Some of us forgot, some of us haven't. Some of us have that innate feeling of just doing things and we don't know why we're doing it. Society is crazy when we're not. This is what we're signed up to do, to shake that logic, to shake that structure. But anyway, going back to ego. Ego is your friend. Ego is that part of you when you take that bite of the sandwich, it's delicious. It's your logic and what society's taught you logically. It tells you, oh, that's fattening. Oh, that's nasty. Oh, you can't do that because those are not foods of the gods. You can't eat that. How do you know? Really? Seriously? Have you studied? If you're just reading in the English language, then you truly haven't studied, because the English is the bastardized language. It's the new kid on the block. And just like when you start when you're a child, you start learning to say gaga, goo goo, you don't really pronounce all your words. English is not really pronouncing all the concepts behind the words of where this stuff truly comes from. So, like I said, it's like eating a sandwich, and ego wants to experience that. When you're wearing an outfit, your spirit is creatively trying to express something, or your spirit, because spirit knows more than we allow ourselves to believe. It may be making you put on a certain color, a certain material to attract the energies that you need for that day. But because our logic has been trained by something outside of ourselves, we don't go with that, we go with this. If you're in the corporate world, you can't always wear everything you want to wear. You can't come and wear jeans. You got to wear suits. You got to do everything, where everything is so restricting and constricting. And they try to make it look good, but we all know it's uncomfortable. That's why as soon as you sit down, you take off that jacket. If you have a desk, most women we know kick off their heels into that desk. Men before they can sit down, if they're in a good pair of pants, they have to hike their pants up a little bit. Otherwise, they'll rip the material what they need. It's constricting. This is not ego. This is logic. And logic is not your enemy either, but it can appear to be against you, or it can make your ego seem to be against you when it's trained by somebody else outside of you. This is where, again, I did a video on dark work. This is where dark work comes in. And basically, dark work is just going in and breaking down that logic. And this is also ties into Mercury retrograde, because it's going in and digging in your logic, digging in your illusions, because that's what logic does. Logic creates the illusions. Spirit works with imagination, but logic creates the illusion. There is a difference between the two. But this is where all that comes in. So I thought that to say, understand that your ego is a part of your spirit. Your ego is a part of you that came here to experience. It is not your enemy. If you look at ego as the enemy, you will always deny yourself unless your ego wants to experience restriction. Unless your ego and your spirit wants to experience refinement, control, restriction, isolation, and all that. If that's the experience your ego wants to have, that's different. But if it's not an experience that your ego wants to have, and your ego is always guided by your spirit, then there will always be confusion inside of you. There will always be a battle inside of you. There will be that duality inside of you that should not be. Everything's actually one. Regardless of how it looks on the outside, on the inside, everything's actually one, and that is energy from the source of all. Everything is. It's in different masses, it's solidified in different ways, it's moving at different rates, but it's all energy from the source of all. When you understand it, then you can allow your ego to experience. And ego will never let you actually experience something that's going to really harm you. It's logic, and our logic and our spirit conflicting, and our ego wants to go with our spirit and say, let's experience this, and our logic is conflicting, that causes harm to ourselves. Trying to go too deep with deep. But I hope you understand. I hope that understands at least by the definition of the word or where the word comes from, and from the expression. This is also why one of the greatest expressions that you know most Jews know, Christians are really starting to realize, and one of the most powerful words in the Bible is "I am that I am." I am that I am. I am. I him. I am. I am that I am. I am that I am is the same way of saying that Sanskrit expression, which is I am all of us. I am that I am means you just are. You just are everything. You are energy. You understand that? You don't define energy. It is what it is. You are a part of source. Source is a part of you. How do you sit there and take out one aspect of you when you are all aspects? That's one of the greatest things about the words I am or I him, which is where the I am comes from. It is a very powerful tool, and you have to be careful when you say I am. When someone asks you, how are you, and you go, I am, that next word out your mouth better be a statement that flows with where you want to go. This is where the saying comes, fake it until you make it. If you're feeling down and someone asks you, don't keep telling people you're feeling down. Don't keep telling people that you're sick. Don't keep telling people that you're dead. They can obviously see that. Old school people will say, child, I ain't worried about that. I'm great. I'm good. I'm this and that, because they understood the powerful words that I am. Spiritually, they may not understood it educational-wise from the history of the word, but spiritually they understood the power of words. Spiritually, they understood the power of the I am, which comes from the sacred word, which is the expression. It's the spiritual concept. It's a concept. It's the spiritual concept. It's the spiritual knowing. It's a deep spiritual understanding of what we truly are inside this vessel. This skin, this flesh is nothing but a crystallized vessel for us to experience in. That's all it is. But we get so caught up in it that we start to separate things and think that this is all there is to life, and we don't realize that there's something inside of us that's making this move. Something inside of me is making me do this. I'm not doing this on my own. And when whatever that thing is that releases, this body will not move anymore. So obviously I cannot truly be this body. I have to be whatever inside this body that's manipulating it. That's who I truly am. I am. Again, I am. So with that, I'm going to shut this video down. I hope that came through clear enough for everybody. Stay blessed and wait for the next video.